let's just bring out John Chen of BlackBerry.
That's a very strange cartoon picture.
Yeah?
Yeah, so interesting story. We didn't explain these. That's actually the courtroom artist that did the sketches at the Apple Samsung trial and the Ellen Pao trial.
Oh, okay.
So
you can use that if you're ever
if you ever brought up on charges.
If I ever sue anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you get sued, either way.
you guys have done some of that.
So you took over a company in a lot of trouble. Well, how many years has it been now that you've been doing it?
It's almost 2.
Almost 2 years.
How many years does it feel like it's been?
Some days it feels a long time, but some day goes past really fast.
Good. You know, BB10 operating system was just kind of fresh at that point, but it didn't seem to take hold. And recently you showed and discussed that you're going to do an Android phone, a BlackBerry that runs Android, basically. Can you, first of all, can you show it to us?
Yeah, I mean, I could show you guys this, and I was just trying to get on the Wi-Fi here, and I realized nobody told me the SS code.
We can give that to you.
But that's okay. So this is the BlackBerry Priv, stand for
PRIV.
PRIV stands for privacy and privileged, and the claim to fame, obviously, and that's the latest specs, 808, and all the good spec in there, and good camera and all this good stuff. Runs Android, Google Play, but we put a lot of security stuff on it, and I always tell people security is what we provide, and privacy is what you get, basically. And then you could slide up and have the usage of the whole screen, and the keyboard is the QWERTY keyboards that BlackBerry is known for, as well as the capacitive touch, meaning that the keyboard will turn into a mouse under certain applications, going up and down.
Like a trackpad.
Like a trackpad, right? So that's what this phone's about.
And what's the size of the screen?
5.25 inch.
Well, let's talk for a minute about why you're doing this, and also about the security aspect.
Okay.
So first of all, BlackBerry was a company that, and still is, for some of your customers, known very, very well for the integration of hardware and software. You didn't just build phones in the hardware sense. You had a whole stack of software in the phone and actually beyond the phone for the transport of messaging and other things. This is a break with that. This is, you're making the hardware, but you're using Android, which is not a BlackBerry invented software platform. Why are you doing it?
So I think if I answer that question in kind of isolation, it might be more confusing than it is. If you allow me, then let me say a little bit about how I'm going to address the business altogether, and then come back to, I will promise I'll answer that question, okay?
As long as you answer the question.
I will.
And you watch that clock.
I got it. So I'd be very, very fast. The 2 or 3 things I need to solve overall for the company, or to address for the company to do well again, and whatever that definition is the following. I got to go cross-platform, meaning this is not only about BlackBerry devices. It's going to be, whatever we do, accommodate audio ecosystems. The Samsung phones, the Windows, the iOS, and the whole. So the ecosystem is important. So that's point number 1. All right. The number 2 is I got to solve the lack of application issues, and number 3 is I can't let go of our security, privacy, end-to-end as a value add. So if you combine those 3 together, that would explain everything we do. Whether it's the software acquisitions that we made in the last 20 months, we have made 5 different acquisitions. And the whole Android discussion. The Android discussion is we wanted to bring the BlackBerry know-how in security from the hardware stack to a trusted zone, to an operating system, to the application server, to the eventually the apps itself, all the way through. Anything that we know how to edit to be more secure and more private, we like to do that. And also recognize the fact that I need the apps. I also need to think about the world is about integrating now. It's about components. Like when I first started in hardware business in many, many thousands of years ago, we built our own power supply, okay? Power supply. I mean, we have an entire division built our power. Yeah, we have, current share, this and that. I mean, we thought it was really, really great. And we have plants that build power supply. Today, if you start a hardware business, you'll be stupid for you to start thinking about building a power supply. You just go buy off. So we got to make sure that just writing a device driver for an operating system, for the sake of writing a device driver, is not that smart. And there are many device drivers written already, and all we need to do is look at it, whether it is secure or not, whether we can add any value beyond that. So that's why we're doing. So come back to that point. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is that take advantage of what the industry could offer, but not wandering off our core strength. Sorry.
So diving into that, I mean, how does BlackBerry guarantee or bring security to Android when you're not writing the code? And to be specific, had the Priv been running 6 months ago with stage fright or some other vulnerability in Google's operating system, how would you have been immune to that?
So here's, first of all, we do work with Google. Now, that said, we're using the L series, the Lollipop. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we're going to migrate to the M, and furthermore, we hope over time we could help influence some of this stuff. All the Heartbleed and all the subsequent known viruses, we, of course, addressed in our system. The only thing I could tell you is it will not be, use the word guarantee. I can't guarantee it. I think this is a little dumb thing for me to say, but I think we'll be more resilient than everybody else, especially if you put our implementation of Android for Work onto our server. So I think about it's more end-to-end, policy and security certificates and all that, more than just a phone itself. The vulnerability of phone, we have authenticating technology inside the chipset. We inject a pin into every chip that goes out. I mean, you guys know the.
You've been doing that for years.
Yeah, I've been doing that for years. We continue doing that even for the Android phone. We're the only guy who does that. Right? So what does that do? Well, you can fake yourself onto a network. So that closes off one side. But if I tell you that I close off every side, that's probably a dumb thing for me to say. Definitely on stage. But we now created another patching. I know we're going to mechanism that will address security attack or cyber attack or whatever you call that. We'll be able to address that a lot quicker than most, and to protect the customer. So there are many safeguards and locks that we put in on various different levels. Is it foolproof 100%? Nobody could say that.
But it's better if the server is also BES and the whole thing, is a BlackBerry ecosystem, even though it's an Android phone. But even without that, you think you'll have the most secure Android phone. Are you willing to say the most secure Android phone?
I would say that the run neck to neck is probably one of, unfortunately, interesting. Is a competition and a partner, a Samsung Knox. And also managed by our BES 12. We're probably at the same level. And the only other phone, which is not a commercially available phone, that could claim that they either have or better than us, is the Black phone. Mm-hmm. And so, other than that, yes. I mean, I know that feels dumb. Yes.
So, there isn't a long history, or there aren't many Android hardware makers who are, global and profitable and have significant share. I mean, really, it's amazing, but it's really Samsung. There are some Chinese ones that do pretty well just inside China alone. But if you look out over the whole landscape of I don't know how many hundreds there are, Samsung is just like alone out there. Is becoming an Android phone maker a path to profitability?
Well, at least it's expand my. I think there's. So first thing first is there's a space to serve. I think it's a very enterprise Android in enterprise is a very underserved space.
Okay.
Okay, I think with our connection, our accounts know-how, our technology know-how, our security know-how, there certainly has expanded my served available market. Because the one issue with BB10, which I love, I use it every day, and people find it awkward for me to, both phones. The problem I have is I win in the very high end, but the very high end is not that big in space. They're like the governments and so forth. So I need to, for me to be able to make money on the device business, I need to expand that pie. And this is why I'm doing this, is to expand the pie.
So, I mean, you've talked for a long time that you want to turn the hardware business profitable or not be in the hardware business. One of the things that's sort of puzzling to me is your costs with having both an Android and a BBOS to maintain it are going to go up. I mean, it's a bigger market, but maintaining two platforms. Are you really committed to BB10, or if this Android thing does well, then BB10 goes away?
Oh, I'll answer that question, and let me add first that to you. The BB10, we have 2 new releases coming up to support the next level of the NIAP certifications. And so when I meet the word NIAP, it automatically implies mostly focus on government and high security space.
I don't even know what that is, but whatever.
It's a standard that the government put out, and the national standard, like the FIP standards and stuff, so that you need to meet a certain aspect of it.
Because the government is so good
a
at
year
staying
from
ahead
now,
of
2
hackers.
years from now, there's going to be new BB10 devices?
That is going to be dictated by the business case. Mm-hmm. And it's also going to be dictated by technology. What does that mean? Well, let's suppose that I'm able to implement the BlackBerry Android to the level equals to that in 2 years, it will become one. And I don't think the customer care, because the customer only wants that level of certification and control.
So if you could, in your dream world, if you could bring all the security you get from BB10 today to Android, that's a win for you. You're happy.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to have 2 operating systems.
Exactly.
So,
But for now,
But now I do. For the next year, 2 years, for the next year at least, I will need to.
So then also, you've talked about, the last couple times I've heard you talk about the hardware business, that it's got to make money at some point. You have a time frame in mind. What is that time frame? When does phones need to be profitable for you?
Well, we could solve the puzzle this way. I'll answer the question this way. It's going to be sometime next year, we got to make our device profitable. Otherwise, I think I need to think twice about what I do there. I think the shareholder expect me to do that. And every other piece of our business make money.
Because Hans got out of the hardware business, and he's a happy guy, or the phone business.
I know.
He's home
I know
with his
Hans,
kids.
I know Hans well. Yeah, there are. I never say never. I'm a very, my job is to make sure that the value of the company, is protected and increased. That's my job, and so we do what makes sense that we could serve the customer with. I've been very straightforward on this point. The one good thing about BlackBerry offering Android and adding the security thing is, over a period of time, if my customers wants that, I will take care of my customer, even if I'm not in the handset business. I am in the software business. I'm in the server business. I'm in the NOx business. So I could actually take care of. I could take somebody else's phones.
oh, I see. That's what I was going to ask you.
Well, I could take somebody else's phone and I say, tell you what, I'm OEM or resell or whatever it might be, but my customer will not be left with where am I going?
And so,
But that's under the umbrella of your service business as opposed to your hardware business. This is if it doesn't succeed, if you make the decision to leave the handset business, you're saying you can still do your security magic on other people's Android.
Oh, absolutely.
and you guys do some of that today. I mean, Bez works across iOS, Android. Why are you going ahead? You're buying good technology, which a competitor in that space. What do they bring? I think it's a lot of
So
wins.
it's an excellent question. So if you look at the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, we started with BB10 and BBOS, obviously, and then that's about a year ago on November 12th, a year ago, almost a year now, that we announced the Best 12, which is a cross-platform. We've been doing very well increasing Android subscribers onto that and licenses. We do some iOS, but one of our competitors does very well in iOS, which is good. And I think 70% or 64% all their outstanding licenses are all on iOS devices, iPad and iPhone. So we want to be really known as cross-platform, and that's the best way to serve the
That was the main reason you bought them?
And their security certificate. There are only two companies in the so-called MDM, EMM space, which is one of us as us, one of them is there, that are very, very focused on the security certificates because of the customer we served. And the not only the government, but the financial customers,
Yeah.
and a medical customer we serve. So those are the synergy there. Now, they also do very well on application server, and I came late on application, the wrapper. They have wrapper for like 2,000 apps. I don't. I was on a path to do that. Don't need to do that anymore.
I just wanted to ask you about something we talked about with Andy Rubin last night, which is his view and others' view that it's going to become a lot easier in the United States for kind of disruptive handset plays to take place because the linkage between the carrier and the handset maker is being broken in a way that it already is in places like China and other places. Do you buy into that, and is there any advantage for you?
Oh, I'm absolutely in agreement. I think times come that it makes sense, partly because we have enough bandwidth. I mean, carriers now have enough bandwidth, and the reliability of the bandwidth, the capacity of the bandwidth, that they don't really need to couple so tightly with the handset people. By the way, Glenn was here yesterday, and they're very focused on IoT, for example. When you get to the IoT, it's probably illogical to believe that every appliances, whatever that meant, has to go through a AT&T lab or a Verizon lab for type certifications, whatever that meant. And the industry spent a lot of energy and money in those type certification. So we were chatting a little earlier, and it's like 90 years ago electricity. I mean, today when I go buy a toaster, I don't call PG&E and tell them that, by the way, I have a new toaster, and here's the IMEI number of the new toaster. And then they would say, okay, you are allowed to put your new toaster.
And you don't have to pay $10 per toaster
I mean,
either.
that's a little counter.
Right, but that's what's been going on. Whenever you had a new model,
Yes.
or Samsung or Apple or anybody, they had to, they had a big thick certification thing. They had to do it. Technically today that's still going on. But
yeah.
Do you expect that to last?
I think you expect that to streamline and eventually, like Andy Rubin said, it's going to change. I think that needs to be decoupled.
So one area we're focusing a lot on the show is cars, and with QNX, which became BB10, or became the heart of BB10, you also got a pretty big automotive business. Is that still doing well? Are you guys getting designed into the next generation of connected car systems?
Okay, yes. So I think, I hope I'm not taking too much time, but the short answer is yes, we're doing very well. Okay, we started with telematics, infotainment systems, got into ADAS, car safety, all that. It's going on even more and more broad. So we're building a lot of modules. Those modules are used by what we call the tier one, and the Harman and the Denso of the world. And they got then in turn designed into the connected cars. In some cases, like Ford and unfortunately Volkswagen and all that, we were doing a more direct engineering to engineering work, building the next generation car. People
not designing the engine software.
No.
Okay, just checking.
No, that's why I was.
Yeah.
But I like to help I like to help underdogs. They're in the always trouble. Anyway,
So is that your next gig, CEO of VW?
I don't know, no, I wouldn't do that. But anyway, but the point is I think we need to clarify one thing for the world, and I always find it amusing, is that everybody said they're in the connected car business. Okay, there are not that many connected cars out there. Okay, right. and there are 800 million cars in the world, or maybe 9, but somewhere around that. There are 100 million cars built every year, and even if you look at this model, 2016 model, I would challenge more than 10% of the cars that are so-called connected. They have connectability built in, a lot of them, but they're not connected. Mm-hmm. Okay, and everybody said, well, they're in the connected car. So I'm very focused right now to create these modules to prepare for the connected cars, and we're selling those very well. And I'm also going to focus on, and we're also focusing a lot about security and the security of the cloud that eventually these cars need to be connected to.
So the cars can't be hacked.
The car can be hacked, correct. So, and that's the number one thing I wanted to make sure.
Who's your biggest competitor in that?
But today, there's actually, well, there are a couple of OTA people, over-the-air people. They're all small and they're mostly private. You know, and on a different module, you know, our buddy at Nuances, obviously I do voice activation and noise cancellation. They do voice activation and noise cancellation. So there may be a little bit of competition there. But so by modules, there's some competition. And from an overall platform, I think we have the richest set because of QNX.
Okay. Questions?
Real interesting thing that I want to make sure I heard correctly, that number one, you really pride yourself on the security that your platform has, but kind of Samsung is in lockstep with you. And the second thing is you said that in a year you may be leaving the handset business if it's not profitable. Why are you still even in the handset business, double down on the security products, and really beat Samsung at its game and be the secure Android provider for enterprises and companies?
Well, because we see both financially and technologically that we could be a standout and some value add to be in the handset business by bringing in what we call, you know, security, what I do, and privacy is what you get. I think that market, as I said earlier, is underserved. There is that opportunity. Right, so I think just walking away, actually, by the guys, I mean, it's, you know, if I only think about me as an individual, as kind of a turnaround guy, I mean, the Wall Street cheered and thought that maybe somebody on stage here will too, and say, if I one day get up and say, by the way, I'm out of the handset business. You know, I should have said it about a year and a half ago when we were burning like billions of dollars a year on that. But I see the opportunity. I really believe that. And the other thing is, a lot of those technologies are needed for my IoT initiative. Connectivity, microkernel, it's needed. I mean, I can't really kind of like, oh, I walk away, and then jettison a whole bunch of people. I need that know-how. This is not a financial re-engineering. BlackBerry is my turnaround is based on market serve and technological advancement. I'm an engineer by training, been an engineer. I'm not looking at this as a financial re-engineering, okay? If I do it, the financial re-engineering, I'll probably do things a lot differently. So this is why. I'm in a handset business because I believe there's a market. I believe we could value add it. I do need the technology, and the market is underserved. And I think the market wants privacy, wants control of the security.
But they also want apps
and they also want apps.
Android.
And that's just why I did what I did.
Right.
Thank you. That was very candid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the phone's coming out later this year?
Yeah, it's supposed to come out later this year. Hey, you know, I mean, this goes back to a little earlier conversation. Right? I'm working with all the carriers to getting the type approval and all that.
Yeah.
And so this is not like I say therefore. This is a little bit of that dance going on.
So maybe not later this year, or are you?
No.
It'll
It'll be later this year. We have advanced enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't have shown it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have talked about it. I would be kind of dumb to
But I'm getting my review unit backstage right now, right?
I hope so.
Okay.
Mike,
No, we have another question. Actual question.
Yeah, you spoke about the customer, and it sounded like you were referring to enterprise customers buying your devices as opposed to consumers. And so I appreciate that you've acquired good and you have a device management capability. So if somebody wants to bring their own device, how do you see? First of all, how do you see the customer? Is it consumer or enterprise? And then how do you see kind of the future of people bringing their own device or enterprises providing devices?
Yeah, good questions. Just like the earlier conversation about the toaster that goes into a wall socket, Andy Rubin's conversation last night, we need to prepare ourselves for consumer or enterprise bringing whatever device they want to bring in. So otherwise, it's kind of dumb. For me to think that I or my colleagues going to provide all devices, I think it's certain time in the future that's going to be not going to be realized. So then, by the way, device is also not limited to handset only. I think that's a very important thing that people need to know. I mean, I am very cognizant of the fact that device is not about phones. And so, therefore, I'm building a software business that focuses on end-to-end endpoints, connectivity, and security, and endpoint management. I use the word endpoint for obvious reasons, rather than just a device. As far as my first phone called the Priv is concerned, on the powered by Android, my audience goes a little bit beyond just enterprises. If you look at BB10, the enterprises are the hospitals, the banks, investment banking, and the government agency. What I like the Priv to do is to go, my marketing focus is going to be a little beyond that, but it's going to be focusing on high-end, again, on privacy and productivity and that level. And you're going to see a whole bunch of imagery and campaign and creative that will come out and try to get more into a consumer side. But it's going to be very high-end consumer.
High-end consumer.
High-end consumer.
So high-end price, too.
High-end price, yeah. It goes to the high-end.
Okay. So it's a premium phone with high security, end-to-end, something about end-to-end, and to the extent it goes beyond enterprise, it's going to a particular kind of consumer who puts high value on that security stuff and has a bunch of money.
Exactly, right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Great.
Well, with a bunch of money, I mean, I think, we'll make the phone financially affordable to get, right? Whether it's by installment or by subsidy or by whatever it might be, but
comparable to other high-end phones,
to other high-end.
an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy.
Okay.
All right.
John, thank you.
Well, thank you.